Here with reaction, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. All right, Newt, I've never watched Ted Lasso, but I guess they thought it was important to put them up at in the White House press room. Any thoughts on that one?
Well, look, first of all, mental health is a very important issue, and the number of Americans who are committing suicide or dying from drug overdose or having their lives ruined, ending up homeless, that's all a tragedy. But I think what today showed you more was the absolute shallow behavior of the Biden administration. We are in a very dangerous situation. We have our two major international competitors, Russia and China, coming closer and closer together. We have a president who clearly does not have a clue what to do. And we have a vice president who is an embarrassment and the best possible insurance policy for keeping Biden as president. And Americans need to understand, this is not a game. This is not one of those things you get on Xbox. We're in a real world faced with real crises, and we have a president who is totally out of touch with reality in terms of what's going on in the world. I personally, as a historian, think that this is the most dangerous period we've been in since Washington crossed the Delaware on Christmas night, 1776. I think the number of things going bad are so great, and the threat to our civilization is so great, that we really need a dramatic change. And you saw today, not only is the show a situation comedy, but in large part, the Biden administration is a situation comedy, and that's dangerous because the world is not a comedy.
Well, and Newt, the saddest part about all this is that apparently when Putin signed a no-limits partnership with Xi Jinping last year, shortly before he attacked in the Ukraine, and now within a few days of Putin being called a war criminal by an international court, Xi Jinping shows up to kind of give him diplomatic cover. It is a dangerous time in that regard, but the United States is now in I think, an untenable position, because as we give arms to Ukraine, we really don't give them enough to win, but just enough to keep fighting. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. I think, first of all, it's very sobering that Xi Jinping last week, Secretary General of the Chinese Communist Party, which is his real title, gave 4 different speeches in 1 week on preparing for war. And I think people should take that seriously and understand how determined, how aggressive, and how competent Xi Jinping is. Putin, of course, was a KGB agent and is himself ruthless, tough, smart. So you got two people who are sort of gangster allies, and they represent the competitive alternative. They represent a totalitarian, dictatorship-led world where they take care of each other against the democracies, almost exactly a recreation of the Axis powers of Italy, Germany, and Japan in the 1930s, who took on the democracies. And now, unlike the 1930s, we have a president dedicated to weakness, dedicated to confusion, whose family, you just saw this last week, got $3 million from the Chinese communists in one check. Right. There's lots of other money out there. We have no idea how corrupted the Biden family is, but what we do know is that with an attorney general who is as bitter and as, frankly, dishonest as the current attorney general, nothing is going to be done, and that's a crisis in itself. You have an American system in enormous crisis with a news media that doesn't want to cover the truth.
Well, and finally, just a final question. With our reaction to the spy craft and letting it float across the United States, Xi Jinping has already tested us, and I think we failed the test.
Look, I think Xi Jinping looks at the Biden family, which I suspect he thinks he owns.
Right.
And he thinks this is the moment when America truly is what Mao Zedong once called us, a paper tiger. And I think it's a very sobering and frankly, as a citizen, a very frightening moment in American history.
Well, Newt Gingrich, thank you very much. We're very lucky to have you. God bless.